Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1650. The topic is Q&A, and the title is Diet Adherence Hacks. There's going to be a lot of information shared in today's podcast. Hopefully that'll be a good thing. Might feel a little overwhelming, but, get a pen and paper ready, have your mind ready that there's going to be some information coming at you. But what we're going to do is a client sent over a couple nutrition videos. And they thankfully time marked them and made them easier for me to get all the information they wanted. But it was a couple videos that put together different quote-unquote hacks for how to not overeat on your diet and ways to improve adherence. And they asked my opinion on this list. So the list is actually 15 things. So I wanted to just go through, talk about what were in the videos, goods, the bad things. I don't agree with some of this advice, and I'll tell you why. And then I'll give you a list of 10 adherence things for myself. So there's going to be a lot of information here, but let's get into it. So the first thing that was in the videos was to exchange all liquid calories for whole food, including post-workout shakes or foods around workout time. The idea here was the person making the video believed that the more you're having to chew and actually eat whole food, it takes time, takes effort, you feel fuller after it, so therefore you're less likely to overeat if you have to physically eat the food rather than you drink the calories. And it's true that our body doesn't register liquid calories as much as whole food calories in regards to making us feel full. Now that's a little bit, it's not a blanket statement in the sense to where if you're talking about a sugary drink, yes, you can drink a couple hundred calories of a sugary drink and not even realize you did that. But if you have like a thicker kind of protein type drink that has like a thickness to it, like a different viscosity, it can actually create a coating on the lining of the stomach, which actually does register as being more full. So try to think of like drinking like a thick milkshake versus like just iced tea. You're going to drink a lot more calories in iced tea than you could in a thick milkshake because it would it would have some substance to it. So that's one thing to consider, is not all liquid calories are the same. And then also, it kind of depends on what your balance is. Are you trying to adhere to a diet that just helps you stay lean versus a diet that's intended to take as much body fat off as fast as possible? The reason why I say that is there might be a benefit to having the calories around a workout, especially post-workout protein calories, being liquid, because it helps get the protein into the bloodstream faster, gets it to your muscles faster, and it starts the repairs faster in the adaptations, the positive adaptations for muscle growth. So if you get that stuff in faster, it does equate to better recovery. Now these are all small nuanced, and meaning like you have to have a lot of other things in place for it to be that significant, but it does factor into it. So when I did my master's in nutrition, I did a big thesis document. It was a 200-page document, 50-page document with 200 peer-reviewed resources. And you had to look up all these research articles and all this stuff, and it was a lot of work. But I actually did mine on the anabolic window, which would be consider the time right after a workout. What would be best in regards to the amount of protein, the type of protein? Do you need sugars with that? Do you not need sugars with that? So I did a lot of work specifically in that area. And the consumption of protein post-workout, the sooner you can get it into your muscles, it does help you feel more recovered faster. And you start the adaptation process from the stimulus of the workout faster. So I'm not a big fan of this one if you're trying to balance maintaining and or building muscle while staying lean. But this is a good advice if somebody's just trying to strip off a lot of calories and you're in a several hundred calorie per day deficit, then yeah, it probably could be a good idea just to switch out some liquid calories for whole food calories, just to get the satiation aspect of having to chew and eat all your food. The second tip was to use 0-calorie carbonated drinks. And for the most part, that's true. It gives you a sense of flavors. It gives you something to drink that kind of fills your stomach. But since it's 0 calories, you obviously don't have to worry about, adding up calories and messing up fat loss. Now, this can cause digestive stress. So people can get bloated and gassy from carbonated 0-calorie drinks. So that's something to think of is, yeah, it can add some flavor to your diet, but all of a sudden now you're bloated, your belly doesn't feel good, your digestion doesn't feel good. That's not really a great feeling. Now you can do 0-calorie non-carbonated drinks. That can give you the taste, but it often doesn't give you the same sense of bloat. So it kind of depends on, which do you want? Do you want the carbonation because sometimes that can make you feel fuller, and sometimes people like the bite, the sensation that carbonated drinks have compared to non-carbonated drinks. But in general, 0-calorie liquids are okay. They're not going to mess up fat loss. They can spike cravings because all of a sudden you get this new flavor. Your body wants another new flavor. So you do have to be a little careful if it starts to create like a rabbit hole of trying to chase down more 0-calorie options, try to get all these flavors in. It can lead to kind of like unraveling of adherence. So if you have like a favorite 0-calorie drink and you're like, okay, I'll just drink this one when I want it, but I don't have any more options, I kind of limit my options, that can help kind of create some structure to it. The third tip they had was black coffee as an appetite suppressant, and that is true. It can be an appetite suppressant, but you have to be very careful of additional calories. So if it's true black coffee, no worries whatsoever. But if you start adding a little bit of creamer, maybe a little bit of like a flavoring thing, like I know, places like Starbucks, they make like a vanilla additive that can give you like different flavor. Obviously vanilla, but they make like peppermint and a bunch of other ones as well. But they can have calories. They can have a lot of sugar, actually, large amount of sugar for a very small amount of fluid. So you have to be very careful of any kind of additives. You have to count everything. So even if you only put a tablespoon of creamer or whatever it is, you got to count it, because if you start having 1 cup of coffee a day, it turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into 4, and all of a sudden you might be having, a couple hundred calories before you really realize it. Like, there's a lot of Starbucks drinks that are like coffee drinks that are like 700 to 800 calories. So, yeah, you have to be very careful of any additives when you're thinking about coffee. The fourth tip they had was to eat sugar-free Jell-O. Now, they have the fruit-based Jell-Os, they have sugar-free puddings, but sugar-free Jell-O, one of the neat things about it is you can eat an enormous amount of sugar-free Jell-O before it really adds up to any significant calories. So you still have to look and see at the calories of it, and you have to factor in however much you're eating. So it's not a free food. You just can't eat it and not count it. You do have to count it. But it's a ton of volume. So it can give you this sense of eating. I'm not a big fan of giving into cravings in this kind of way, though, because your body's not dumb. If you eat, a huge bowl of sugar-free Jell-O, but it's only 15 calories, your body's going to tell you it's still hungry. Because essentially why the body's telling you to eat is because it recognizes it's in a deficit. It recognizes it's having to burn off stored body fat, and it's saying, hey, why don't we start to replace that? Because the body's desire isn't for you to be lean. The body's desire is to protect its organs. So if you have accrued body fat is essentially energy protection. So your body is feeling that it's giving up some of its protection. It's going to kind of like send off some signals and say, oh, hey, we're losing some protection. Let's see if we can get that back. Now, your body might not realize if you're at 30% body fat, if you go down to 20% body fat, you're still going to be totally fine protection-wise, energy-wise. It doesn't register that. It just knows this is the body fat I'm normally at. You're trying to take some away from me. I am going to fight that process. The reason why I don't like giving into cravings and eating things is because, as I said, the body's sending you that signal because it wants calories. So even if you eat something, it doesn't matter. The body will tell you it wants more. So if you give in to a little bit of craving, it tends to want more and more. So it's kind of like if you give someone an inch, they take a mile, that kind of process. Is if you give your body the ability to tell you and then you respond, it'll tell you more and more. So I'm not a big fan of giving in by eating extra foods and all this stuff, because even though it's really low calorie, it's going to spark you to just continue to want to eat more and more. The next tip they have is sugar-free gum. Same thing here. I'm really not a fan of it, especially if there's sugar alcohol. Sugar alcohol can cause a lot of bloating, a lot of gasness, a lot of stress, and it can actually spike hunger. So this person in the video said that the mechanics of chewing gives a fake sense of eating to the body. No, the body's not dumb. The body wants to chew to get calories. So if you start chewing on gum, it's actually more likely to say, ooh, I got some kind of flavor. So for example, a lot of people like cinnamon-based gums when they're dieting because it has that burn to it. And for some reason, when you're already in the pain of dieting, you like more pain. So burning gum, like the bite of carbonated drinks, but gum can actually spark hunger because your body thinks it's eating, but it's not getting anything, so it's registering, hey, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. So I'm not a big fan of sugar-free gum, but it is an option. Next tip we have is 0-calorie flavorings, like sauces, dressings, etc. Yeah, I mean, like Mrs. Dash. I've used Mrs. Dash. There's 5,000 flavors. I've used every single one. You can get into spices and things like that. I think are totally great. When you look at sauces and dressings, you have to be very careful of what are they using to make it 0-calorie. So sometimes the non-calorie substitutes for what would be in the regular calorie full items, they can again cause digestive stress. So when you put a lot of fake food in your body, it kind of ticks off the body. So you have to be a little careful, especially since a lot of low calorie, no calorie things have a lot of fiber in them. You have to just be careful about that fiber because it's going to go through your digestive tract and kind of clean you out or cause some stress. So you can do 0-calorie flavorings like sauces, dressings, spices. You just have to be careful to monitor and check how your digestion is after eating that. The more you tick off your digestion, the longer it takes to fully heal and get back to normal. There's more inflammation, and you just kind of are going to start to have digestive stress over even normal foods because the whole system is stressed. So you have to be very careful about that. The next tip is to eat more vegetables. This is great in general. You just have to be careful to know how many calories are in the vegetables you're eating. So I remember I gave a diet one time to a client, and I said, you can have a cup of vegetables, with each meal. They had a cup of lima beans. And I'm like, dude, that's 300 calories. You can't do that. I was thinking more broccoli or celery. I was you're looking here for 100 or less calories, maybe 50 or less. If you have a cup of lima beans, that's way too damn much. That's like having a basic carbohydrate. That's like having a sweet potato or a potato with every meal. So you do have to be aware that not all vegetables are calorie free. They do have calories in them. So you just have to be mindful to count them. But they are a low calorically dense food, meaning there's a high amount of volume to the food. Think about eating a whole head of lettuce. So you can get a lot of volume to the food without having a lot of calories adding up. So that is an option. The eighth thing we have here is powdered peanut butter. There's a company that makes a peanut butter powder called PB2. And it has 85% less fat than normal peanut butter. So you just add the powder and water, or you can powder on your oats, and then all of a sudden it tastes like peanut butter oats. You can just kind of mix them in with a lot of stuff. But that is an option to give you an additional flavor option in your diet. without adding as many calories. So that can be something that you can use to add flavor to various things. So that's an idea. We also have shirataki noodles, which is like I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's konjac root powder, konjac. I'm 99% sure that's probably not how you say it. But konjac root powder, and it makes noodles. And the noodles, like the powder itself, it's an insoluble fiber, and it absorbs like 50 times its weight in water. So you can get these noodles and eat them, and it just serves as insoluble fiber, which means you're not going to be able to digest it, so it's just going to run right through you, basically. But it adds volume to your meals. So it is something, again, that can give you like a fullness to a meal, like give you more volume in the meal, but it doesn't necessarily add really any calories. The 10th thing we have is what the person listed was protein ice cream, which is where you blend protein powder and ice. And then they were talking about how you can add like the PB2, the peanut butter powder. You can add sugar-free Jell-O for different flavorings. And they said that can be good. It's not going to be like ice cream. So I'm not a big fan of that because I think you're going to eat it and just be disappointed. And then you're just going to want regular ice cream. So, again, I have found over my dieting experience and dieting, coaching clients, that food substitutes don't really work great because, again, they just further cravings. The more you give your body the ability to tell you what to do, the more it tells you. So if you continually try to find more ways to eat food that have less and less calories, the body's just going to continue to tell you to eat. It's going to say, well, that wasn't good enough, eat this. That wasn't good enough, eat this. That wasn't good enough, eat this. It's better just tell the body is no. That's it. Just no. We have our foods that we're supposed to eat. These are the only things I'm eating. Shut the hell up. And that works better, in my opinion, and I've seen it myself and seen it with clients, that works better than constantly trying to find these small little weird additives that I feel like just spiral into more things that people aren't counting as calories, or they're counting incorrectly, and then all of a sudden their diet isn't working. So I've had so many people tell me, I'm on my diet, I'm following my diet. And then as we talk, we find out that they're doing things like protein ice cream, like eating more vegetables, sugar-free gum. They're doing all these things. They're not counting any of the calories. And all of a sudden they have a lot of gas and bloating. They're uncomfortable. They have low energy because of all the digestive stress. It spirals into a really bad place. So I'm not a big fan of it. But next thing they recommended was low-fat popcorn. No, still not a big fan of that because it can cause bloating. You can have bloating. You can have digestive stress from that. So I'm not a big fan of that. Number 12, this is actually getting into some of the better advice of all the videos whatsoever. So 12, 13, 14, and 15 were the better pieces of advice. So number 12 is carb timing. When you eat carbohydrates, it can spike insulin levels to a greater degree than other foods. So if you eat carbohydrates, your insulin spikes, and it can increase the sense of feeling hungry. So early in the day, if you stay with more fats and proteins, that can help mitigate really high levels of hunger that you might feel in the middle of the day. Now, some of the caveat to this is what this person said was it blended into rule, like the suggestion number 13 was timing. They said they like to get up and wait about 6 to 8 hours to eat. Really not a big fan of that. We've talked about intermittent fasting a lot, and it's a type of intermittent fasting. Just not a big fan because you really elevate cortisol levels by making the body have to move and do all this work at the beginning of the day without any food whatsoever. And that can cause a lot of sleep issues. That can cause a lot of energy problems. That can cause just a lot of stress in the body. And your body's desire to fight against the process elevates very quickly. So waking up and being active for hours a day, can you do it? Yeah, absolutely, especially if you take caffeine in the morning with like coffee. So it's not It's not difficult to do, but it's just not long-term successful. You're not going to have your best body composition, meaning like body fat and water weight relative to muscle tissue. So you're not going to be leanest doing it that way. You're going to have more sleep issues, and you're going to have more energy issues. And you're going to then end up eating more food in the evening. So you're going to end up overeating when you're not active, and then you're undereating when you're more active. And again, that's just a recipe for disaster in regards to body fat loss versus muscle tissue loss. So one of the persons giving the advice, they take a lot of steroids. Basically, they take exogenous form of testosterone and above physiologically normal levels, so they don't have to worry about as much muscle loss, so they can do things that are not actually really good suggestions for people who are not taking additional testosterone. So I'm not a big fan of just not eating when you wake up, but the idea of keeping carbohydrates lower, focusing like adding fats to your meals, can be helpful in the sense that it's more sustained digestion, and it doesn't spike hunger as quickly in the day if you do have issues with hunger. Another thing, like we said, they led into the 13th suggestion was meal timing, and that was where they said like you can restrict when you eat as a form of adding restriction overall, which can actually help adherence. So I just talked recently about Brian Johnson, who's doing an experiment of trying to basically reduce aging. He actually wants to reverse aging, and in a sense like trying to live forever, but that's not what he's really trying to do, and he knows you can't do that. But he wants to slow down the aging process. And his eating is actually you start consuming calories when you wake up, but it's maybe the first 6 hours of the day, and then he doesn't eat the rest of the day. That's a lot better because that doesn't add to as much cortisol, which is important for anti-aging, as not eating and then eating later in the day. So if you're going to have like a time windows, it's better to start right when you wake up, do that for a couple hours, and then taper off or stop eating. So it's better to provide the body what it needs and then pull back, rather than making the body run without anything and then trying to put it in later on. Tip number 14 was to make sure that your diet is high in protein. Yes, great advice. So you don't really want to go over 1.25 grams per pound of lean body weight, as it starts to over limit carbohydrates and fats, which can kill your daily energy. It actually increases cravings, decreases motivation. So there's a lot of downside to having your protein content too high. So I did an extended diet. I did a 10-month diet where my protein was at 40% of my overall calories. That was actually a little too high. It was horrible energy, and I didn't actually even have great fat loss because I had such low carbs and fats. My body was really trying to protect body fat. I didn't experience a lot of muscle tissue loss. I just experienced feeling like crap and having no energy the whole time. And when I actually reduced my protein percentage down, I actually lost fat faster. So there is a too much of protein. So if you estimate what your lean body weight is, which would be like, how much would I weigh if I had like semi-visible abs? So if I weigh 200 pounds, but I know I have like some fat on me, I'd be like, well, maybe I would look really good around 180 pounds. So you would want to do 1.25 grams per pound per 180 pounds. Okay. So you try to figure that out, and that would be around the high protein content that you would want. The last tip they had was caloric density. So take advantage of foods that you can eat more of. So their example was meats. If you eat 6 ounces of a steak, like a sirloin steak, versus 6 ounces of chicken breast, there's an enormous amount of calorie difference there. So if you swap sirloin steak for chicken, all of a sudden you can eat enough chicken to the point where you don't want any more chicken in order to get the same calories. So playing around with caloric density is helpful. We mentioned a little bit about that with the vegetables, but it goes to all other foods as well. Is if you struggle with hunger, pick foods to get the same calories that would require higher volume of the food. So it ends up having to eat overall more food in regards to the size of the foods. not the calorie content, but the size of the food. So again, think of swapping, a fatty meat like a steak for chicken or even whitefish. You have to eat so much more of the lean meat that it can feel like more filling than it would for the fatty meat. Okay, so those are the 15 suggestions that the person made through like a couple of videos and a couple people. But I liked some, not many. So I thought it would be better for me to add a list as well. So the 10 things that I think help, and these aren't like the only 10, it's just off the top of my mind, is number one, track your adherence. What's going to help you with adherence is actually tracking how well you adhere. So often I have people tell me, I'm following my diet. And then we talk a little bit and they're like, yeah, well, I have a little can of soda in the afternoons. Or I have a couple pieces of chocolate here or there. And it's like, then you're not following the damn diet. Like, for the love of God, why do I have to deal with this all the time? I get grumpy. But it's like if you either follow the diet, meaning you're doing the diet, or you don't. There's no, yes, I follow the diet, but I don't do what's on the diet. That doesn't even make sense. You're just lying to yourself, and that's stupid. Stop doing that because you're just going to hurt yourself. You're hurting yourself by saying, well, I'm doing everything right, and then we talk about it, and you're like, okay, I'm not doing everything right. Just be real with yourself, If you're having it like that, like the one client I'm talking about, that one time we were getting ready for a powerlifting meet, and she said she wanted to cut weight classes, and she really had to get her weight down, and she's like, oh, my weight's not moving, and it was like 3 weeks, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, everything is correct. What is going on? I was like, there's got to be additional calories. Can you send me photos of what you're eating? Like, let me help you measure foods. Let me see if something's just really off. Then all of a sudden she's like, well, I guess I don't really need to send you photos. I am getting a little extra food here and there. She tells me she drinks a soda, eating all this candy. Sometimes she eats more at dinner. She doesn't count her dinner because, she knows she gets some protein in there, but she hasn't been really fully counting and tracking everything. And I'm like, for the love of God, you're not following everything. If you want to lose weight, this isn't going to work. If you don't really care about making it down to the lower weight class, totally fine. I'm not going to judge you. Let's not worry about that. And then let's make sure you're fully fed for the weight class you're in, so that way we can maximize recovery and strength. So just let me be part of what's happening, so I can help you. Whichever direction you go, there's no judgment. I just want to make sure that whatever we do it the best we can. That's the idea. So tracking adherence helps a lot because that way you can't lie to yourself and get lost in your lies. The second tip is to put slow digesting foods ahead of known hunger times. So if you do have times where you get super hungry, try to eat foods that are slower digesting at the meal before that time. So I'm just making up an example. Let's say you have breakfast, you have lunch, you get home for dinner and you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. I eat dinner and then I eat even more before I go to bed. Well, what you can do is, first of all, track and make sure that you're distributing your calories out. So you're eating enough calories at breakfast and lunch that you're not coming into dinner so underfed that that's causing the hunger. But then also, if your calories are distributed well, eat slower digesting foods, higher fat content at that meal before, like say lunch. And then that will last longer digestive-wise going into dinner, and you won't feel so hungry at dinner time. So using slower digestive foods or higher fat percentage at the meal ahead of when you're hungry can help reduce that hunger. We talked about caloric density. That's definitely one of my favorite things, so that's a good advice. Protein percentage, again, make sure your protein's really high. That'll help a lot. The fifth one is to stay mentally busy. A lot of people eat out of boredom or they eat out of routine. So if you tend to eat at night, because you're sitting at the TV, watching TV, doing nothing, and then you just sit there and you're like, oh, I normally eat, so I'm going to eat. It's a little mindless. So get busy. Do something. I don't even know what the hell it is. Just if you're going to be in front of the TV, actually my wife and I, we do what we call relaxing work. Is in our office, we have a TV in the office, and then we each have a desk and a laptop, and we face each other, which is really nice so we can talk. But we'll be on our laptops, and I'll be writing programs or doing client check-ins. She'll be doing her job, and her job is like forever. It's nonstop. It's basically you just stop for the day, not because you're actually done. So she's just doing little odds and ends for herself, and we'll just be chit-chatting on laptops, watching a little TV, but we're busy. My mom, when I was growing up, she used to do paperwork for her own business. She ran a daycare center out of our house, so she did that for like 30 some years. So she would at night like be doing like financial paperwork for the kids, tracking different things, and she would do that in front of the TV, and that was her way of being present with the family and everybody, but staying busy and doing something. I think she did it mostly to stay awake, more so than food avoidance. But that can be an option, just kind of staying busy. Get a hobby, go garden, whatever it might be, just do something. When you're like, idle hands are the devil's playground, as they say. So don't have idle hands. Stay busy, do stuff, go for walks. Just do something that keeps your brain busy, and you'll eat less. The sixth tip is to have a visual motivation reminder and to renew your motivation weekly. So have your goals written up somewhere. Have your why. Like, what's your why? Why are you doing what you want to do? Why are you dieting? Why are you trying to adhere to this diet, whether it's a diet for building muscle, diet for sport performance, whatever it might be? Remind yourself of why. Maybe have it as a home screen on your phone, cell phone, on your home screen on your laptop. Just have it somewhere that you see it often. Maybe you have a mantra for the week, like some kind of phrasing for the week that kind of motivates you. Get a different quote every week. But do something that is a visual reminder that you see often, and then renew that motivation reminder every single week. Because once you look at it for a couple days, it kind of doesn't work anymore. So you have to refresh that every week. And that's great for just reminding yourself each week, why are you doing this? Tip number 7 is to have a food list and don't deviate. So I'm not a big fan of allowing my body the ability to think that it can just tell me what to do. So if it sends me cravings, and I give into the cravings, it'll send more cravings because, what it wants is calories. So it's going to tell you eat. And you're like, well, here, I'll eat this sugar-free Jell-O. And your body digests that and goes, that's not what I wanted. That didn't give me anything. Eat more. So then all of a sudden you start chewing on sugar-free gum. The body's like, there's no calories in this. Eat something else. So it just continues to tell you to eat and eat and eat. So I have found that it is significantly better to say, these are the options I have per meal, and maybe I have like a diet soda, that I can choose when I want to, or maybe I have, maybe like orange Jell-O, and you're like, okay, I'll eat orange Jell-O once a day if I feel like I need it, but I don't give myself other flavor options. I don't give myself another option other than Jell-O. It's just Jell-O only. The more you tell your body who's boss, the more it'll shut up. Now, it doesn't shut up right away. It takes a little bit of time to shut up, but it'll shut up. So take control. Don't give in to the cravings, because again, they're just going to continue to amplify. So just tell your body, these are the meals we get. This is all you're getting. Shut the hell up. Deal with it. 8th tip is to have some form of accountability. You can have an accountability partner, so accountability buddy. It was a term I heard recently that I really liked. But you can have accountability partner. You can post stuff on social media. 99% of the time, does anybody care? Who knows? But it motivates you to post it. Great. And then probably somebody cares. But your story can help motivate other people. Tell people about the struggles you're dealing with and then how you're overcoming them. That's a really good way to use, social media. If you're going to use it as a form of accountability, use it as a way to connect with people or to share the experience with people. Don't just post like, here's my food, and it's like, okay, so what? Enjoy it. Like, make something of it. That could be your stay mentally busy activity in the evening. Maybe take a picture earlier in the day of one of the meals. Talk about what you like about that meal. Talk about a struggle you had that day. Use that as a way to have more education or more connection with people. I think that's would be a better way of using it. You can also get a coach. Coaches help. At least I hope so, because that's my job. But having accountability is a good thing as well. Number 9 is short-term goals. Don't think, I have this goal for the next 6 months. I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to crush it. 6 months is a long time. Long time. So have small short-term goals. If you're tracking your adherence, like I have clients track adherence, and I might say, hey, see if you can get your numbers, your calories and your protein right 10 out of the next 14 days. That's motivational because you got 14 days to get it right. not 6 months. So short-term goals can help with motivation and kind of staying focused, because you're picking time frames that are not so short they create tons of pressure, but short enough that there's some pressure. And then tip number 10 is to plan bad days ahead of time. We talk about this. There's a book called Elastic Habits and a book called Atomic Habits. Great books. You're going to want both of them. But they talk about the idea of flexibility when working towards your goals. So I have a past podcast that you can check out if you'd like to. It's podcast 916 titled Flexible Habits. And the idea of this is to be prepared for when you have a bad day. So when your schedule changes, when the body's just super freaking grumpy, have it planned out as to what you will do when you run into a bad day, ahead of a bad day. Because when we're surprised with a bad day, we make really bad choices. Really bad. Whereas if I'm like, okay, I already know what I'll do when my schedule gets jacked up. I'll already know what I do when I feel like I have crappy energy. Maybe I'll sleep in a little bit extra. Like you'll want to plan ahead for what are you going to do when your schedule changes. What are you going to do when you have crappy energy? Maybe you call somebody. Maybe you just go visit somebody, text somebody, call somebody. Just plan for bad days, because they're going to happen. So try to figure out, as you run into some bad days in the early part of the diet, try to say, okay, what could I have done this day to still adhere to my calories, to still adhere to my protein? Could I have gotten this as a quick, easy food item? Could I have eaten more at this meal if I know I'm going to end up missing this other meal? So try to start to plan out your bad days and know ahead of time what you'll do. And that'll help a lot as well. Okay, so those were 15 tips from someone else, and then 10 tips from me. Hopefully that was a lot to think of and some things you can actually use. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. We do have our nutrition coaching, which is a one-on-one nutrition coaching service. I give you numbers to hit, and it's also, you don't even have to do macros if you don't want to do macros. But if you are counting calories and grams of stuff, talk to me. I'll give you specific numbers. I'll learn your story. I'll learn what your goals are, and then we would communicate every single week. I do reviews on what you've been eating, answer any questions you have. So basically, you get basically nutrition coaching for $100 a month. You can ask me anything you want ever, and I'll give you all the answers and make you podcasts and share things with you. So it's a really cool educational process. Really love that. We also have our one-on-one coaching where I do your training and nutrition. And then we have our live monthly programming service now, which is $50 a month. And you get programming based on a topic, brand new programs, brand new workouts every 4 weeks. And then with that comes a Q&A aspect where you can ask any question you want and get unlimited answers. So tons of education with that process as well. Okay, check all those out on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Okay, if you like our podcast, please share it. The more people share it with, the more people can help. We just want to help everybody live their healthiest and happiest life. So thank you to those who do share the podcast. It is significant that you share, and I appreciate it, and hopefully who you share it with will appreciate it as well. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. It does have a high hosting cost every year on a bunch of different platforms in order for it to be kind of out there in the world. So I appreciate the donations to help cover some of that cost. You can donate on our website, even just $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can give. It's very helpful, very meaningful, and I appreciate it very much. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us, please follow us, under the name Brutal Iron Gym on Instagram and YouTube. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.